live stream. Oh, there you go. It goes on the dot, so we can get started now. I have a copy, so it's okay. You can keep it next to the piano in case we need to look. Thank you, Irene. You played well. There were many convincing moments. And I must say, this was an immediate best hit in Bach's time. Soon became a very famous piece. And it's strange that all the surviving manuscripts are a little bit later, so the real manuscript of Bach is lost. So it's kind of a pity for all of us, because there are a lot of incongruences and problems with the text that maybe, I hope, I haven't had the time to study latest developments about this, but already Badura Skoda, who was here at PianoTexas many, many years ago, he had remarked upon the Henle edition having, with the other edition of, with other editions anyway, remarked upon the fact that there were some unresolved textual issues, primarily in some places where there is, as you know, and sometimes Bach writes in the Dorian style, so it's still very unfortunate that we are missing information. But this is probably, these days between the Berenreiter and Henle is probably some of the best texts that we can gather at the moment. It's humbling to be in front of a work that was, that is so special and that was already very successful during the time and after the death of Bach, of course. And I would be a fool to tell you that I can answer a lot of questions about this piece. I think there are still a lot of moments that require more fantasy, right? In a sense that, in a sense of timing. And also, there is always the incredible difficult thing of having to deal with the translation. We are translating a piece written for an instrument to another medium, basically, right? Now, the fact that Bach was himself transcribing a lot of music, we have oboe concertos that have been transcribed for the harpsichord. So this should give us, really should make us feel a little bit better about playing on a different instrument. Some of the unresolved questions that I have about this music is that when we hear even the overholding of notes, like this. One thing is to hear it, or in this register, quite another, because the basses are so rich with harmonics and the sound, once you strike, doesn't die, which is the opposite of the original instrument. So we have to be extra careful with basses, and we have to sometimes employ something that even Chopin used in the time of Chopin, which is holding with the fingers as opposed, creating a finger pedal, let's say. So instead of doing, this sound was alien to Bach, this. But we could do it, and therefore 1/4 of the pedal should be used. You should become extremely sensitive. Some pedals are better regulated than others, of course. This one right now maybe feels that I have to go down a little bit more than I'm used to. But you get used to that and you figure it out. So let's try a little bit some of these things. And the very beginning, obviously, it's a question and answer, or because this obviously is in D minor, and this goes to 7, right? That's the chord built on the scale degree 7. Diminished chord. So it's a chord of great stress. So that means that along with your, when you play this, maybe there should be something more stressful that makes us feel uncomfortable. It's not like this, but you can even hold for a moment. You could hold a little bit the C sharp to make it, not until the end, but to make the connection. So obviously the last one is a resolution that could incidentally help us if we had a slightly different speed, more nervous, almost neurotic about this. And then maybe. Can you try? Yeah, try also maybe. Mark the D a little bit. I don't know if I would do, because then I don't feel that, so kind of. Good. Just be careful not to collapse with the thumb, because practice this for me, this. Yeah, because sometimes I hear it. Like, you do something like this, and this kind of collapses a little bit, so you lose sound. Yes, yes. One way to do it is play 1, 2, 3, 4 with the right hand. Yeah, so when you hear that motoric speed of the notes, tic-a-ta-tam, 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 then you try to imitate with whatever finger. Okay, you have to try to imitate what you hear. It doesn't matter if pinkies. You try to imitate what you really want to hear. Try. First that, then. Yeah, try. Basically what you're doing, you're moving a little bit in between. And so these, I hear the connection. I hear that you're playing with 2 hands. I shouldn't, like. Try to intercept the first thumb with the second thumb, like. Try. And then. Okay, better. So. And then now. Good. And then. Yes, you have to practice to hear. There are 2 ways whereby our ear perceives notes that are uneven. One is because the note does not receive the same timing. And so one is elongated. So you hear a or so you feel like it's not quite tika-tika-tika-ta-tam. It's tika-tika-tika-ta-ta. And the other one is the note is just sticking out, is accented. So you have to determine which note it is and whether it's a question of timing. The finger is delaying, you know. And other times is also in passages of this kind is when a finger sticks to the bottom of the key, and like Czerny used to say, when you play the next finger, the previous fingers has to come up. But sometimes it doesn't come up, and then you get. It's a split moment, but you hear something isn't quite right. It's because. Now, one thing is to want it, like if you do this, or like maybe. One thing is to want it because you want to show the bass, maybe, or there is a reason. And another thing is when it happens to you. And you are unaware. So that's when the ear needs to come in, and then your analysis of the passage needs to kind of get down to the bottom of it. You know, you have to be like the Sherlock Holmes, and you have to, find cues as to what is happening there. Okay, so let's do it one more time, and then we'll move on. Right. Good. If I have a question, is it you? Or you say, is it you? Which one do you think is more dramatic between, is it you or is it you? The first one, is it you? It's more scary when there is a pause after and a silence, right? Did you do this? Silence. How am I supposed to interpret it? So that's why I think this E should go. And by the way, I know it's written with, but for most hands, B flat E with 3 and 5, medium hand or smaller hand, it's a little awkward. Kind of, so I sometimes, it makes me wonder if I did 4, 3, 2, 1, and maybe 2. And then therefore I play A, B flat, E with 1, 2, 5, more powerful, look. I can even do this movement, you see, it's much more determined. This one, it makes me worry about that because it's an awkward position, it's not. If this were D, it's easier, but for most hands, this is a little bit awkward. So try this and see if the, maybe if you don't like the 2, 1, 2, you can try 2, 1, 3. Yeah. Now, this would be unnecessary if all pianos were very brilliant. Then the fingers don't need to work as hard. But then you would have opposite problems when you're trying to make mysterious music, because a piece of music is not just brilliant or just mysterious, it's a lot of things, right? So we have to use the fingering sometimes to facilitate something and get to the scope of what we are, to the bottom of what we really want. So I know it's kind of difficult to improvise this now, but let's see this, try this. Yes, and that, use your wrist especially, and kind of you can scoop the ice cream out, as I often say, which is this. Try. Now, that's nice. And then, yes. Be careful not to rush the end, though, now that the fingering is easier. And then the amount of sound you reach here, don't forget, because now if you started with, but ends with, you will need much more on this. Yeah, so more. Okay, try. Now you're rushing. Yes. Then. That can be less, right? And even slightly slower. So one turns out to be, and the other is, then we have, good, but show me that there is something interesting, which is, and then he changes his mind and he goes, so maybe the first time you can hear more bass. Then maybe show the soprano more. You can even hold the notes instead of, you can play, as long as we don't do with the pedal, of course, which you don't, right? Because it's the holding of the notes is, first of all, it's only 2 notes. It's so quick, it doesn't disturb us, but it does help to carry the F, and it's not pedaled, so it's perfectly fine at that tempo. Okay, try again from. Good. So we have a, then so in the beginning this because it doesn't start with so then we hear the C sharp more. The first time we don't, because we hear the bass, the A. So then the C sharp has to go. Sorry. But this one, since it ends with you can do the agogic rubato, or I would rather call it agogic accent. What does it mean? Since the harpsichord couldn't play louder suddenly or change the dynamic, to identify a spot that was more interesting, people just stopped on it. So they used time to make us feel like tika-ta, tika-ta, ta, 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 and you were, oh, that was important. So it's kind of a nice technique that we can also bring to the piano. Even if the piano could play louder, of course, we could do, but then it becomes an accent. So rather, you can use that sort of, so that the piece doesn't become a bunch of triplets. Tigata, 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 but it doesn't stop. There are parts that need not stopping. They need to, you know, to move on. But there are some parts that highlight the structure, harmonic structure. So then this is one. And then we have to show this, or if you will, so you can take a moment here. This is important because it's the Neapolitan 6. So always emphasize it in some ways by holding the notes, for example. So we hear the harmony more. And then taking a little more time on the chord that's more special. Can you try from? Try. Yeah, you might need a little space, look. If I only do this, I have very little weight, but if you expand, you know, because you sit very close, your angle is less than 90 degrees in your elbow. So have a little bit, you know, 100 degrees or something. So there is more weight on. Now, does it mean you have to drop the arm fully? No, but there is a sense of opening of the body that relaxes the muscles, the bigger muscles, not the smaller muscles, into the key. So the sound opens. Good. Yeah, I feel that you are doing something that is possible on the modern piano, but not as much on the harpsichord, unless you hold notes. You are showing the bass as one entity, and the ta-da, ta-da, the 2-3, 2-3, 2-3 as another. In other words, two levels of sound. Always a little heavier, the bass. I'm exaggerating, but you are going in that interpretation. The harpsichord, you hear like each note is nearly even. The result of that is that it creates even more tension on the harpsichord than it does on the piano with all this beautiful round and colorful sound. So for us, we need to be very careful in motoric music to make sure that the finger articulates a little bit more. I don't want to go in the direction of Glenn Gould that transformed the piano into a hybrid between the harpsichord and the piano, which was amazing, by the way. An incredible technique is required for that. But I think you need more of... Can you try it? Sorry, try again. So a lot of work with the right hand too. Yes, go always, and also that piano in that register doesn't speak quite enough, so you may have to go to the bottom of the key. If you stay on the surface and you do the keyboard cleaning, the slide, it won't get the finger to the... to really take it. Yes, there it is. And equalize the voice, yeah, so that you don't have, but just more like. But sometimes you should try this. And see which one works best for you. But if this works better, please don't play like this. Okay, let's try one last time, the same spot. Good. I don't quite hear these. That's the, you know, yes, you need. So, try. Now go. So here, when you get to the bottom of this, you know, you reach one octave below the middle C. That's where your finger need to snap even more, because we get this. Nobody understands what's going on. It's like somebody, those people who try to understand what they're saying. And they are on stage, and you're supposed to hear it in the back, right? And everybody, there is always a voice that says, "Can you speak louder?" So here, it's not about speaking louder. It's the opposite. It's speaking with more distance, with a... So more like more finger motion and lighter. Can you try from closer to that? This one. These are. Yeah, that's right. Yes, that kind of touch. So, I'm curious, how is the sound in the hall with the, is it too staccato over there? It's amazing. What we hear here feels a little dry, but look, how long did it take for the sound to die? It's about a couple of seconds, right? So even if we play there, it might sound like a little, right? So you try, and don't increase too much the sound. So kind of. Good. Where is your arrival? Is a. So take a moment on ton tim pam pa. Right. Better. Now make more organic gesture. This seems a bit isolated from the other hand. Imagine this. Have you tried to play with one hand? It almost is the right thing to do. So when we play with two hands, we have to imitate what we would do with one, except that the second hand helps you not only to simplify, but to make more clarity with the bass. But then we usually tend to abuse it because we haven't tried this. All these. If you try, it will never sound like. It's not natural for the hand to do that. You have to think about it, right? So try one time this. Try slowly. Try slowly. See, you don't hear too many differences between the bass and the second and third note. It's a bit more organic. So now try with the other hand, but imitate the... See what happens. It's much better, yeah. Otherwise it becomes pointing, kind of... And, yeah, try. One last time, go. Boom, boom, bing, boom. Very good. Yeah? So what you did, you went from maybe this four-arm movement to actually more like a wrist-based movement like this. Then like this instead of more from here, right? So it was good, this, mostly here. Try one more time. And then when you play this, that's more important. Again, this is a chord you can hold, then off. It will give more power to a single note, because when you hold the previous notes, you have the power of the sound that carries on. So, yeah, if you like to hear it that way, you can. And then less. And so on. Let's try again. At least if this is, yeah, that's why it's difficult. I would actually take two notes with the left, maybe like, yeah, with the third finger, so. Is that easier? Yes. Now, why? Because the modern piano is so much heavier than the harpsichord. With the harpsichord, you could have even done, I don't know, 4-5-4 if you needed, and it would still have the similar sound, right? But with the modern piano, to speak this B flat, it takes a little bit more, especially because piano technicians call this the killer octave. It's a difficult octave that you have to deal with because it has to speak, but then it's against this powerful basis. So it usually comes out a little bit under speaking. And so then the fingers have to do something about it sometimes, right? And this is a very awkward position. Yeah, Chopin would have written, because you see, you have the two long fingers on black keys and the pinky on a white key, but yeah, that's different here. Try. Now you're adding some extra note. Yeah, don't try now, don't try. But study that passage with that finger and see if it works for you. With 3-1, yeah? But for now, do as written, as you know, and try to voice more B flat. Like that. Yes, and to highlight that the music is going down, you can, when you play, sorry, not the same rhythm like, but I forget if it was Schnabel who said that when there is a change of direction, maybe I'm misquoting him, so then I apologize, but the last note, the top notes, is not an arrival, it's the first note of the descent. So in that case, because the ear wants to hear not like an arrival, or so delicate, but because you hear better the beginning of the descent if you play the A little more. So try from again. Yeah. So raise the fingers just like so stop on G. Yeah. And then yeah, so you remember that. That's it. Without stopping though. So much better. Yes. Go on. Good. Where does the descent begin when we do this? We have a T, T, T. It's still there, right? But we notice the descent, I think. We have basically this. Then we begin the descent with. So I would linger. I would take a moment here on that note before, and think of them not as da 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 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Think 1 2 3 1 2 3 1. Change the bar line and feel as though these are triplets starting not as ti do do ti do do ti do do. They are. So they start from the lower note going up, and so on. So again, indulge on, and then you start after. No, don't stop on this T, but stop on. Good. So what happens now? After we do this changes. It's not 3 notes. It's. So we need to slow it a little to point to the ear that there is a change in the texture. And then I recognize that the pattern is different. Otherwise, rhythmically, if I do, I don't know, but then I definitely know. Try. Yeah, maybe if you want, it's fine too. And then. Finger pedal like a little bit it works, yes. And when it's in the upper register, you can use a quarter pedal. And then little by little you instead use the finger pedal. But not, but every 3, change every 3. No, Bach, you more than 3, we are done. 3 is the perfect number, remember. Otherwise, it gets like very pianistic, and everybody says, ah. It's a little too much. No hand at the time. Imagine, you don't have that, right? So what could you do is this. You could do this. You could do 3 and 3, no more. So the pedal, if used, should imitate what the hand at the time could use, I find. It's a hybrid. I don't think we can completely ignore history. And I don't think we can only live by it, because we are already doing a historical false by playing it on the modern piano, right? Or at least a translation. And we know very well that when you have poetry, you lose half of it in translation. It's very, very difficult to to imitate the original language. So in any case, the arpeggiation was fine. I don't know why you stopped here. It's new to me. But it's very nice to hear. You did it. And then I suppose it's not a bad idea. Yeah, I think shift does something, something like that, adds even more. It's still the theme of arpeggiation in this, as well as the A minor fantasy and fugue. I think the third prelude of the second book of the Well-Tempered Clavier and other pieces. It's still a matter of debate, indeed. So you do your own version. But yes, it's basically an up and down that has to go, that has to follow the rule of rhythm. If it's a half note, rarely Bach did write arpeggiation in quarter notes, but when he wants that, he writes these big chords in half notes, and then he writes arpeggio. Done. For 300 years in the future, you all can just keep thinking about how to do that now. And of course, it should feel like a quarter note, like you're doing. So the top is the second quarter. And then going down, the bottom is the beginning of the half note again, and so on. And when there are a passing note, like sometimes you can change on the way down. Let's try one more time from a I would do. You see, why do I say that holding the fingers is more important than beginning with a... Because the original instrument is much more intimate. That's why it's, you know, this hole is perfect for Bach, but the Van Cliburn hole would be very difficult. I played there. Of course, the Six Partitas is a bigger piece, and I even played Sinfonias by Bach last year. Okay, that can help for transparency and so on, but when it comes to this sort of delicate feeling of only you and I nearby, because the music was intended for a few friends, a few people, not like a gigantic auditorium when the bourgeoisie started, you know, going to concert, and then they built larger and larger and larger auditoria. That's been the change, I think. But we shouldn't lose that very delicate sensitivity, you know. So yeah, occasionally, when possible, when impossible, I think you can step in a little bit to help with the, you know, with the pedal. But otherwise, try it with your fingers. See what happens. Yeah. And expand here. Good. Careful with the dropping of the arm on arpeggiation. You get this. Keep it very. It should be a minimum distance between this tone and this and this. Otherwise, we start. Yeah. So the other note should be less loud, but just less. So, I never understood why pianists went like, and then whack. What's there to whack? This music is not, you know, that kind of bite a la Prokofiev here that you need. It's very intimate, and although it grows chromatically, it's very special. It's still very intimate in some ways. Yeah. So reflect upon that. I wanted to. Yeah, that would be in the world of dreams when we had enough time to talk about everything. The recitative was very well done. Just I would recommend that you play the chords. It has to have basically a lot of sigh. All these, not at the same level, but it's more like. All these are like that. So not that the even because in vocal music of Bach you could do that. This is where the limitation, this was a point also discussed by Schiff, the limitation of the harpsichord that can quite imitate vocal music, and the piano can. So we have that advantage, but then we have the opposite problem, the basses, the pedal, and all these, you know, and the round tone that in some of these becomes problematic because you then it ends up sounding too into the future, let's say, into music that was conceived maybe more for the piano, like in the Romantic period, say, right? Yeah. But you did very, very well, and so these are just some general point for you to think about when you are translating from an instrument to another, basically. Good, thank you. Thank you. Play what you like. What's this is supposed to go off though. What would you like to play? Which movement?
So I was intending to do the fourth movement today, but if you like to hear both, I don't know.
So which movement? Four. Only four? Okay. Because I have four, no?
It's at 3 and 4.
Oh, 3 and 4. Okay. But you only want to play 4. I think it makes sense.
Okay.
Sure. I have it. Thank you. I think it's very clear that you know the main tones that make up the piece. So the relationship between the melody, the bass, you know very clearly. But if I can make an analogy with two people who probably hated each other, which are Schoenberg and Schenker. When Schenker, in his analysis, reduced a composition to a descending 3 notes, or he was able to create a blueprint of the composition in such a way that he figured out exactly the skeleton of what the important things were. I think the joke goes that Schoenberg said something along these lines. He said, yes, it makes sense, but he took away all the flavor and all those beautiful notes that I love. So in other words, there were, you pinpoint a lot of notes that are important in the composition, but by leaving the others a little bit too much in the background, I miss the most important thing, the harmonic plan. So you guide me because you figured out which voices are important, right? And rhythmically is okay, I understand what you want to do, but the bass and the melody are just 2 elements of the composition. So possibly this is happening because maybe, do you practice often with the pedal or mostly with the pedal?
Yes, I guess I do.
Yes, maybe it would be very helpful to do what Chopin prescribed with his students. And apparently even Schoenberg repeated that, which is sometimes we have to really spend time practicing without touching the pedal, because that makes you much more aware, not of only, you did basically, these were very clear, as well as these. But we also, we have this moment of a, also this note, you have to decide, is it 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, 3-1? And I submit to you that if we look at this pattern, and if you look at it like a painter, not like a pianist, and you remove the stems of the notes, you only look at the notes, I see 3 ascending notes. So I see a line, then I see another. So I see, so missing the second note or not speaking it sufficiently makes that pattern unclear. It makes the ta-ram, ta-ra, it selects. So you have a selective performance. You selected to show me the chromaticism of the piece. But the ascending gesture was missing in that case, right? So try, if you do without pedal, actually, if you don't play the first note, start from the second note and try this. Let's exaggerate. Can you do first this for me? Can you do this movement? That's it, this. Let's reduce the movement to this now. So, yes. No, not yet. Don't play yet, don't play. Do the movement only. And then reduce it. And then play now. Yes, and then. Yes, but I don't see any motion at all in your thumbs. I know that the thumb is the continuation of the arm and it should be generally relaxed, but if it's too relaxed, the weight of the finger alone is insufficient because it's about, I don't know, about 30 grams. And this is, down here is more than 55. So unfortunately, the experiments were made at the time of Otto Ortmann. It's quite macabre, but yes, they weighed the finger. I won't tell you how, but they did. So you can imagine, so they figured out that the only way it can play, it's because there is a larger force behind it, or because there is its own movement through the muscles, right? So we need I would try this. try, and then, and before you start, you know, moving with everything else, try to stimulate the finger with this. Believe me, you know how to do that because your text message, you figured it out. So this. Good. Now don't even hold the notes because the pedal will do a little bit. By the way, you can, not as long as. Otherwise, Chopin would have probably bothered writing a different stem, or most likely he would have added an additional note next to it with a quarter note and then the eighth note. He was perfectly capable if he wanted to. So sometimes when composers don't tell us something that is self-evident, is because maybe they want a minor difference between and the. If I see the quarter notes and the eighth notes, I would probably overemphasize it. So this is even more delicate, right? Not too much, just a little. Just not full legato, but enough, yeah. Yeah, but for now, I would rather, because it's a little bit more difficult, I would rather not hold it all for now, and really, because that goes back to the previous issue of hearing the principal pitches. Instead, you want to hear the motoric motion of a ti, do, di, di, do, di, di, do, di, do, di. Yeah, so what happens is that you have most of your weight in the outer part of your hand towards the pinky. So you do like this. That's why the thumb isn't considered at all. But you have to, can you play this? Yeah. That's better. You see that creates color, the harmony, B minor. I hear the full color. So sometimes you should practice by holding everything only to hear the color of the harmony. So it's this. And then you discover that in theory, 4 creates more agitation than 1. The harmony of 4 is going somewhere. The harmony of 1 is resting. So the beginning, we can't play agitato because it's a restful moment. But if I do, even it's more agitated than the arrival. Yesterday we were, during a lesson, there was also this movement actually. We talked about sometimes even using the space between the notes to emphasize the harmony. We did it for the Neapolitan 6. Now, by expanding a little bit the notes, the ear that is used to regularity suddenly is attracted by something. So you can, if you want to emphasize 4, especially after the arrival, you can expand a little, so not the same rhythm, ta 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 ta, but ya ta ta ti pa 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 pa. It's minor, okay, but it's enough to make us feel that the wave in the ocean aren't all even, and they are not the same size, okay? Try. Oh, but you diminish. And then you did. We need that finger. Yes. Yeah. I also maintain that these are all single notes. Sorry. Then it starts putting a chord. Chords are like we are a little bit closer to pyramids. They're heavier. They're a little bit, they carry something. So it's not the same speed of... There should be something about that that makes it feel, you know, more difficult. This, unfortunately, when you reach it, we need the harmony. So we can just play it. For fear that we lose the voice, we lower the other voice. We need the harmony. I know it's not forte, but there is so much tension in the... We have... Amazing, no? This... Yes. It's almost like a Baroque device, not quite, because it's not, but... Almost, yeah. The chromatic fourth, descending fourth, passus duriusculus. I don't know if this, but there is something hard about this chromaticism. The triton, you see? It's all there, actually. Maybe it's an accident, maybe not. Okay. So more fingers out of it. And instead of using so much pedal, I hold the... Yes, so the difference between... Yes, so the difference between these two notes, that now we have to have a different articulation for to hear that they are not accompanying. Yes, careful with this rhythm, it's very difficult because sometimes I use 4-3-2 because I almost want to sound like, it's better to think of it as a grace note, like, I played that example, right? But it's a grace note that gives a little kick, because otherwise the problem is that it becomes 2/16 notes. So we have to be very careful. Yes, if you did the, if you release the hand and you change the pattern in the harmony, like then you can use the fingering 4-3-2, and then 3. I use 4-3-2, 3-2, 3-1. Pedal on next. Yes, but not 5. 5 is too weak. Short key, short finger. Doesn't go well together. That was Chopin who discovered this, right? He always wanted the 4th finger on a black key, if possible. Not always, because you can't in the etude or other thing. But in cantabile, it's much, much easier. We don't begin this waltz with 5. It's possible, but why? With 4, Corto's fingering. Right, so 4th finger on black keys. Anyway, that's my suggestion there for that passage. And you need a bigger voice. Now even more. Yes. That's right. I know it's piano, but there were also, you know, there is reason to believe that the first crescendo brought us from here, could be almost mezzo forte, maybe not quite, and so we shouldn't go down to, we are up, so we need to stay in plateau. Yeah, and at the same time we have to show some interesting things like then it becomes this inner voices. Look, this. If you do, you're limiting yourself. If you do, you need space if you want sound. No, don't diminish, because that's so weird, because should be, but it's very powerful. Why? Neapolitan 6. Instead of, so we want to emphasize the Neapolitan and so on.
Can that be still done with the decrescendo?
It can be a small impetus, maybe like a little. However, you see, we are looking at a form under the microscope, and we are looking at a small tree, but we are missing the forest. This whole section is only a prelude to the next one with the octaves, which becomes far more tempestuous in some ways. So diminuendo up to a certain extent, yeah, because there could be diminuendo, but if it's too diminuendo, then this entire feeling of what we have done from bar 9 pretty much to bar 27 feels a little bit like it's concluding, but no, it should be leading forward to the next. Otherwise, it's subito forte. I'm not so sure there is a subito forte. There is something still in the energy. Look at the writing. This is not a Mozartian left hand. It expands the hands like this because it wants to do what great orchestrators have figured out, that you need to space out the parts to obtain more harmony, more involvement, and more range out of the piano. So if he did only chords and he did the, then it would be, I think in the Requiem there is a passage similar to that, you know. If there is, any composer knew that if there is a death, you can also morir, death. In Italian opera is found, right, this. And he went to the theater quite often to hear Bellini, right? So, okay. Okay, try from. Also, remember, it's presto, non tanto. Presto, but also agitato. So this diminuendo up to a certain extent, really. Have a lot of energy here. Quicker foot change. Okay, try to go for 2 notes instead of 3 because you are late with your foot. So, and then you end up changing to 2. So I hear, I heard the dirt of, you're too late, in other words. Here, go 2 and 2 maybe, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. When you play fast, 1, 2 will sound like 1, 2, 3 actually with the pedal. play the right hand. Play the right hand alone. The pattern is not. It's a. It's this one is. I gave you that. Is 3 1 2 3 1 2. The other one in the beginning was 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Sorry, it was 2 3 1 2 3 1. This is 3 1 2 3 1 2 because the way the hand needs to be detached to play the next part leads us to believe that the groupings is now 3 1 2 3 1 2. So do 3 and then pedal 1 2 and then the 3 without pedal. Yes, don't go all the way to Mars with your foot. Stay close to Earth. Touch the pedal, in other words. Yeah, you're going so high. You don't, yeah. Yes, and this you have to train yourself. If you cannot use the fourth finger or whatever, you can do 5/5, but you shouldn't accent it like that. More like a. So not ta-ta, the first ta should be unaccented, kind of. Yes, now that you can do that with the pedal, you can try to go nearly to 3, but not to 3.5, that's too late. So, because if you go to only 2, I recognize that you could staccato the, because you're not doing, well, nobody can. I mean, very few people would use from, you know, well, I think it's possible to use 4, but if your hand can't afford it, you see this, then you have to use 5/5. So you have to elongate the pedal enough not to do a staccato on this. But you have to be rather rapid at changing that pedal. I think your motion upward was a little too slow, and then the sound started colliding with each other. You know, the harmonies mixed. Okay? So let's do slowly. Try. The most important thing, though, is for your arm not to feel tight at the elbow area when you do 3-1, the 3 especially. You have to kind of give more freely to 3. That's if you want to connect the sounds better, yes? Try. Better, yes. Even this one. Ground your hand to the key. Yes, because otherwise what we do, the tension doesn't let the arm go to the key, and we go like, and then we only release that, and then you hear that as an accent because the other two were, due to tightness, were too soft. Instead, they have to imitate like you're doing, like when you put paint on a wall, you know, if you lighten up, you miss some parts, then you have to redo it, and it's never the same color. You have to feel that. Change. Good. And what I need from your left hand is much more when you play. I need a lot of left hand there. If you want, you know, extreme enthusiasm, you need. You know, much more intensity. Try. Let go. Don't jump too much with the left hand when you do. Otherwise, you get too many accent again, you know. And that. If you have to jump, make it very close. Change. play that chord again. Now play this here. Try this. B, D. Yes, so it's very similar, no? If you play here, it will be the same. But make sure that this plays, because usually you go for the octave, and you don't realize that this barely touches the key, so I don't hear the harmony of B major, I hear an octave. I don't hear the... He makes it explicit here, that is at the top, but this is at the center. So sometimes with chords that, whose definition, minor or major, depends on another finger that's centered in the hand, we have to actually go more for that, except for always going for the melody. Like, that will be heard. There are 4 of them. And this is only one, so we need the and then that. Good. We need also to hear the rest. We need to come up. Try. No, no, no. Absolutely no. No need. Can you try? Bravo, yes. And the pedal here will be, it has to follow the top, right? It has to follow the melody. Good. Of course, you also need to practice it. If you want to hear it better, you need sorry, a bit more. Yeah. And then even if you want, you can use the dot as another breath. What tells me that is that there is the end of the slur that started here. And although it's a dotted note, I still need to begin the new slur. And this one, sorry, this one has the pause. So all this, when we see beginning of slurs, we should worry about how to show this beginning. Is it a little bit less, or sometimes it's more in diminuendo? But we should do something about that. Sometimes it's a small breath. I discovered recently that Benedetti Michelangeli often taught to his students that when you have a longer dotted note, the dot represents a small breath. Interesting. It works perfectly for this. You can possibly hear it in many recordings too by people, right? It's kind of, and then that. Good. Sure? But careful, huh? This. You went too pointy. You remember what John Owings said in his master class at the end of the morning? He was speaking exact, sometimes going too straight down 90 degrees into the keys. So make sure if you do this, either you go down 90 degrees with a very tender hand, which is not easy. Again, watch Michelangelo when he does the... Sorry, I forget the harmony now. But you will see these small moments where the hand is thrown into the key with lightness, and the fingers are extremely light. That's a very difficult technique. And you need to know the piano very well to do that. But otherwise, it's important not to go like, right? It's easier to land as the letter U, kind of. Yes. And if you do too much U and you tenderize your fingers too much, you will hear it in the sound because it doesn't speak. It's like, and then you realize, okay, no fingers. If it's like, dang, it means it was too direct and the fingers look like marble. Your ear has to learn, but also your hand has to learn the feeling of it so you can kinesthetically remember the feeling. Yeah, try. Yes, better. Even this one, when you hand, same idea. There is all legato. Yeah, remember, in the practice room, that might be a little too much. But you have to practice in the practice room for the day you are here. Because you need those small breaths. Otherwise, over there, you know, about 6 yards from us, it mixes all up and it becomes a minestrone. Except the minestrone tastes good. Okay. Think of two of them. One is and so you have your famous chromaticism. Obviously, he likes it because he keeps lingering on that stuff, right? Right. You see the mixer. I think you do change pedal, but you don't reach the point of silence. In other words, you don't let the dampers really touch the strings. You go close, but then you're already changing the pedal. And so what happens, it really mixes a lot. I think part of it is fear. Usually when we are a little bit nervous because there is a difficult passage, we start pressing like crazy, right, with the pedal. So you have to practice more slowly until that fear is resolved. I have to give you a fingering. I don't know how you play this one. How do you do with one hand?
So actually, I kind of waver back and forth. I have two possible things I do.
Yes.
So this is.
Yeah. Yeah. Only one note? Have you tried this? After you play 5, and then so 1, 2, 2. No. You're already there with pinky, so use thumb and second finger. 1, 2, 2, bum. Yes. And you have to play like a timpanist, though. Kind of a bit, a little bit. Yeah. Is it clear? You hear speaking of every tone, like tikatatam. When you start something new, don't speed up right away. It takes a little experience to do that. So go a little. Yes, with the octave. That's right. Good. And now internalize the beats so that you don't happen playing the. You know, when you practice, you can practice accents. To remember which tones belong to the left hand with the arrival of the left hand. But in performance, you have to be capable of then internalizing the beats, so you don't need to hear. You know that those are there, then you just. Yeah, it's there, yeah. Play for me the left hand and use the pedal right. Try. As close as you can, so kind of. Play slowly. Tam, pam, try. Pam. That's good pedal, yes. Keep the same tempo now and try. And you forget. It's amazing how the pedal doesn't go up. Go all the way up when you change, yes. Yes. Yes, you are lucky they don't put the piano on this strange device. In some schools they do, and what happens is that the pedals sometimes are more elevated than you're used to, and you get tendonitis in your foot. You start feeling so much pain here because the foot has to go all the way up to change. But in your case, if you cannot do it here, imagine on those pianos, then it would be all, complete pedal throughout. So you really have to train the ear to hear absolute clarity. Yes. Yes. There you go. Good. Let's talk about another aspect, because I know the time is a tyrant here. Can you play slowly the right hand? Okay, so later, but now we need to train the fingers to move a little, like. Can you play all staccatos like? So a bit more. So this one, this one, yes. Yes, and also a small variation of color when you have the crescendo. So you have to kind of train really because otherwise if you only practice with fingers extremely close to the keys, they become lazier and lazier, and then it's not speaking enough, especially in a larger space. Needs more clarity. Can you try? Do again this with an absolute, the joints must absolutely be very free and very tenderized, like this. Yes. Yes. So you have to do a little bit of that kind of practicing to develop that feeling. It's very hard, obviously. It takes a little time to build up speed. But there is something in the motion that stays. Even if only 2%, it'll be 2% more than what it was before.
Sure. So I have a question with regards to that.
Yes.
With the leggero, my understanding is that that's kind of like an indication that maybe this.
Yes.
The 16th notes are kind of filler material. So how does that, are we going for a brilliance or like kind of?
I think the word leggero means that the clarity of these notes, I don't know, it needs to tickle your ear. Okay. And, I don't know if... I'm out of shape here. I haven't practiced this in a long time. But basically, the idea of this clarity. That kind of brilliant tone that can be different here because. The pedals should be changed actually a little bit more quickly. The notation seems to indicate that the pedal should go all the way to the end. But I have a friend who studies the plates and tells me that the printing industry didn't do a good job. Sometimes the space wasn't right, it was elongated, sometimes, so we cannot fully rely on Chopin's notation of the pedal in the printed edition, the first editions and so on, because that the end of, first of all, the notation is weird, you know, it was like that little asterisk or whatever that doesn't really make it as clear as a line. And also because of the plates, the way they were, the printing industry at the time was functioning, it was sometimes a little more elongated, a little shortened, so they don't really tell us. Probably the beginning is correct, but we don't really know the end of the pedal. And I feel that we should trust our ear. In faster playing, obviously the pedal should be a little bit shorter. Yeah. So leggero for me is a little bit that kind of writing. That I don't know if in the scherzo number 2 you have actually the word leggero there, but it's worth checking. Because it sounds to me like a similar passage where, you know, so it's not about brilliance in terms of, it's about clarity of articulation. And of course, not all notes will be equally clear because it's just impossible and maybe not needed. But most of them have to be articulated so that they can be natural. The tempo, it's a big deal. There are those who can and those who can't. Those who play quite fast and there is the articulation, and you can hear it. And those who will play this a little bit slower, but you still enjoy the articulation. I think I would rather vote for that than playing super fast, and then suddenly it's all like the minestrone we were talking about, right? Yeah, good. Other questions about?
Oh, no, that's good.
The leggero, yeah, it's very interesting. But maybe, I don't know if that meant je perlais, what the French refer to. That you can hear a little bit of space between the notes, like not or but more like yeah, naturally, who knows how the microphone captured this? Because, you know, when we play in here, we play for the audience, and the microphone does something else. If we have to play for the microphone, maybe we can even tone down certain things, because it's so close, right? So that's another story, playing for the microphone and playing for an audience and having to deal with a specific hole. But still, that I don't call it staccato because it would be, that's how we practice it. But in the end, it's a, do you hear a little distance between the tones? A little bit of that, maybe. That's what it might be for these passages, yeah. Yes, yes. And before doing the things that you already know, this, you heard it in many recordings. But those people who do those things, they also articulate the right hand, right? So before you go in that direction of besides this, the only pattern that is interesting is this one. And then again, piano. Only when it becomes rhythmically interesting, like when it acts upon it, then it's really interesting. And in general, before you go for the heaviness onto this, float. If you float, it'll make the leggero easier. But otherwise, if this gets heavier, then you either over-articulate and you go like for then it gets heavy and not leggero. It doesn't get light. So these I would do. Float, so you can, and you can play that. Yes, so before you can do that, you have to practice separate hands to find the color of one hand. Try this. Maybe you practice the hands together too much. So you have to take it apart. Yeah. By the way, extreme control of the left hand is necessary here because the right hand is difficult enough. It needs the comfort zone. So if the left is there for you, it's a huge help. Then, sometimes when we have a very difficult passage in the right hand, we realize that the culprit is not the right hand. It's actually the left that was not learned properly and makes us feel uncomfortable, and that's why the right hand responds to it. But if you fix the left, it's like having really you're building it from the ground up. It gives you the solidity. It's like the tree, at the bottom of the tree with the roots. And then the right hand is maybe more like the leaves, that can be moving this way or the other way depending on the wind. But the root must be there for you, okay? Okay, sorry, we have to stop. Thank you. Will you play the, yeah, I got it, great. Thank you. I forgot my shovel home for the snow. So now we are, you know, we have it up to here. It's quite an amazing piece because it begins so tenuously, and then it develops into this tempest. And Busoni used to say that it covers, it covers the village and all the people in it, And he also mentioned, I think, something about the nature, the poetic nature of first order that relegates this etude not in the realm of etudes itself, though you can, as an etude, you can identify what it is. There are leaps, there are chromatic scales, there are tremolos, right? And that's about it. And there is the cantabile, so there are many things in it, but he uses these 3 or 4 ideas throughout the piece. So like a prelude, an etude uses a smaller amount of material and tends to develop it, right? So that's the idea. But there is nothing of the etude. This is almost like an etude tableau, like, a pictorial description of the music in its best way. That's why it's a piece of great poetry in some ways. I remember when I learned it at the time of Moses that this idea was we were never permitted to play that with 2 hands. So I was fatiguing so much. Then suddenly I see the Vienna Urtext edition with, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, when there are the leaps and the octaves and so on, it gets a little bit harder to hear. So suddenly you have more accentuation. In a way similar to what we heard in the Chopin sonata, no? The little notes, they are sometimes a little too soft, so you have what is it? So we need to always find that the tremolo is there. All these, we have to hear a little bit of that. Sometimes it's softened to the point that you hear more of the melody and not enough, again, of the harmony, right? Now, second thing, you also tend to change the pedal too late, and actually not too late. It's just that you don't go up. You don't reach the point where the damper touches the string and resets the sound for the next chord. And so on some occasion, I noticed that there were overlappings in the harmony. Yeah, the beginning is quite good. Can you try one more time for me, the opening? Good. Study this. Interesting, because it's B flat minor. You have a. You should go to 4. Instead, the first note suggests, we don't know, right? That's my first intention, is go to 4. 1, 2. Instead, I hear. What is that? It's a Neapolitan 6. But of course, it's not. It's a passing. Because the number of B flats and G flats, there are 2 B flats and 1 G flat. They outdo the. It could also be that. That would be something completely different, yeah. So they're all passing notes, but there is something very beautiful about this. It sounds like a B major if I didn't know any better, right? So one more time to make sure that you don't underplay the. I don't hear, but I. Sorry, this. Do you do it or with the, like this or you play? Okay, yeah, good. Try again the opening. You heard it, right? That. And then you corrected yourself. That's fine, that's fine. Yeah, I know, because if we change too perfectly, sometimes then we start hearing isolated, right? A tremolo that's not a color. I don't know if I would go at all cost to this, because this would be easier. It's harder because, again, he puts, you know, a slightly longer finger to play in an elongated way. You play about 1 inch from the end of the key, which, according to science, is too close to the fulcrum and makes the key a lot heavier. That's why it's, you know, the thumb plays at the edge, but the second finger, it plays in. That's why probably people end up doing this, because, you know, scientifically, it's you play away from the fulcrum, so it's lighter. It's still very difficult. Yeah, try half a pedal even, if you can. Find, say, you do, there it is. And you find that sweet spot, and you keep the pedal there. I would also, I am not sure, like sometimes even in Chopin, when it's time to hold the notes and when it's time not to hold. When we do, maybe the long note I would hold with the pinky, but when you play this, if you detach the hand like this, then you have to match with the... Nobody would know the notation, but from the standpoint of the ear, you still hear the continuation of sound, except you hear more clarity, because you play mini bells. Ding, 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 like that. So the sound resonates in the whole differently. I would consider even this. And then hold as a pivot. Because actually he makes it more explicit in the left hand, unless Liszt really wanted the tenuto symbols on the notes of the melody to use a different touch from the left hand, because he wrote notationally differently, no? Dashes for the right hand theme and staccato symbols for the left hand. Did he mean this? But can we hear the difference? I don't know. I don't know that it's that this notation may mean that, you know, that he wanted the difference between the two themes. So I tend to think that maybe this could also, you know, like you play like a bell, in other words. So you don't go like dang, and then you stay close to the gong, but it bounces off. Yeah, try. And I'm convinced that that technique will help your wrist to go up and make the tremolo lighter. Change all the way up. Good. Staccato, staccato, staccato. Yeah. Yeah, that's very good. Can you give me more of? So more support with the bass. Yes. Change. Here you have to be a little careful because we are getting to the lower registers. So the original pedal of Liszt, which was hold 5 notes under the same pedal, there is a small difference. If I do, and I know how to play the chromaticism softer, it won't bother me. But if I do, I do a little bit, you know, you mask, you hide it. But when it's here, that's what you get because of the left hand, right? So when it's here now, it's not gonna work. So pedal almost each, or at least those are harmonically similar. The harmony is, then you change for this harmony, and then the last two harmonies if you want, one pedal, because are three harmonies, the same pedal maybe, because it's the same harmony at least. Try. Change, 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 stay. Change, change, stay, change, 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 change. No, 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 you're adding some new music here. You play, it's a, there is no D flat the second time, bar 8. You're playing, so you become, suddenly instead of 6-8, you do a 7-8, Bartokian writing. Okay, just don't forget that. Yeah, okay. Do from 8 again, from... And then it starts again from... And then it starts building, right? Right. Good. So this one... Maybe try to hear more right hand. I think you need to stay within the key. Don't let the key go all the way up. Play them together once like this. And these guys, I don't hear them. Yeah. There you go. And then you're from that. Yeah, and then a little softer. A little bit, right? That's the problem with this etude. It can immediately, you know, bark at you, you know. So we have to be so careful and so light. Very difficult. Try. I hear the melody, I hear the bass, I miss a little bit the... So practice the lower voice one time, so you hear this... Try. Try. But I hear this. Right. So, yeah, but try a little. Yeah. So don't focus on the fingers alone like that, because it's not going to happen. You need a little bit of that tremolo, like a. Yeah, so that we hear the inner voice is not only the bass, but and then you hear it better, right? See, the voice, it's a, it should be more resolving diminuendo. Yes, maybe you crescendo too much, that's what it is you play. And then you cannot, then you have this, how can you need to take a little bit of time too before the sudden piano maybe. Bravo, yes. Careful though, when you play, careful with the because it's not F, F, E, it's a E, F, the resolution, ta-ra, departing in the next destination, right? It's not F, F, E, the theme is E, F, F, E, right? I can't sing with letters. That's a little bit too pointy. Maybe because you stay quite close, so you end up doing these movements like this. Yeah, try to expand this. At the same level that when you reach this more is also an accent. I think it's to show yeah, sorry. But the idea then come down. Can you try for me one thing, which is this? Try to stand up and go a little bit. I know it's kind of hard. You have to find the right position for this. But if your arms are more like this, and you're mobile in the elbow, in a sense that you can do this, how would this help you to do? Can you feel that? Try both hands. Yeah, exactly, because it vibrates a little bit, you see the vibration even from here, even if it's small. There's something happening, exactly. Now, try this. Who's gonna do the job? The fingers, right? So you are limiting the possibilities. Does this one? Good. That's what I had in mind. You read my mind. So if you sit too close, mostly it's going to be the job of the fingers, but I think you need some, opening here that allows a slight movement from here. Yes. Try to take your time. This is dangerous. Take a small moment just to. diminuendo. Change the pedal. Yes. Then change the pedal so the diminuendo happens. Open, open. Yes. Take your time there because it's risky, right? This. Exactly, you see? So it comes from here. It's too wide a gap. Now we have the horns. We have a... So don't overdo. I know you want to show me the counterpoint that there is a wah, bah, bah, but I don't know if I would hire the tuba player for that part. Maybe it's just a double bass is enough. So we don't want or the trombone. But they should still have a conversation, not suddenly. And suddenly we have just. Sorry, this gets very heavy, so I would thumb. I will play the thumb more. So I hear it. If I do. I might as well do that too, right? I cannot hear it very well. So thumb, yeah, try. And also, can you try to? Don't suddenly go against the key. Just play octaves like this. Right? Good, that's beautiful sound, you see, exactly, yeah. So don't feel in a hurry because the sudden movements will cause a spike. Try. No. Technically, you did this, which was a beautiful gesture. Then this hand prepared and did like, wait, go. It was a little too direct. Okay, make sure it creates a conversation, yes. That's nice. Also, you could create a motion, 2 notes, and use these 4 to go to. So. So that they go somewhere. It can da. It's okay for a few beats, but then it becomes repetitive. So right. Let yourself go. Curate the sound always. Let go of your elbows. It gets bigger, not louder. How about you don't hear? So you play first with the pedal all the off. Boom. Interrupt the. So interrupt just a little bit before the chromatic scale. You have this beautiful legato from here. silent, and then you have that effect. I think that's this. Right. Just think of the A. Practice. I think you need the fourth finger, right? No. Yeah, not as loud, just a. Yeah, try. Yes. There is a trick, actually. If you change the pattern, when you reach the A, you go off for 2 notes, like, or 3. Then you. That's what I do. First time, yes. Again, look. We're controlling from so close when you play. Yes, you need a bit of space for your hand. Otherwise you'll lock here, right? Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes. Remember the pedal, especially here. When you play. Up, yep. Yes, not as clean like I do. I literally take 3 notes without pedal. These, and then you. That's enough. Yeah, a sudden change of pedal almost creates a crescendo. Otherwise, if you attempt to do a crescendo, it could get heavy, like too much. Just you see, good. It's too a little bit too soprano oriented. I do. Make sure the thumb sings in, a couple singing, not a soloist. Try. So this one is hard to hear, so we want just to. Good. This is a bit too direct. After you do this, go, and then slow again. And that part goes because yes. The part that has the chromatic scales is more difficult. It can be more expansive, and then when you have only forgot the notes. Try again from. drums, right? The last one is so hard. Right. That's why you need to slow down. You need to, expand the part with the chromatic scales. Try. Don't get, no. Curate the sound. Don't get upset if the piano doesn't do it. It's usually us. So don't go like, why didn't you do what I said? That becomes a controlling attitude to which, unfortunately, it equalizes all the instruments. Play Elka, Weinstein, they all hate it. So we need to make sure that in the moment, it's only a natural reaction. It's almost like the last moment until you finally climb Everest. So you finally do this and you say, finally, and then you trip. Instead, make sure you really relax a little at the end when you're, so you have still this sound and not an angry sound like, why did you write such difficult thing? It's almost as though we get upset at the composer, right? Try again. But you're playing these chords really with a lot of finger power, which you have, you do. But what if you did this? You arch the hand and play it from the shoulder like this. Look at this. Yeah, it's better. You have to feel like a bear, like walking like this, a little bit like a bear. Beautiful. Yes, I would make a difference between this a little bit after almost two characters, in a way, one and the other, and then suddenly change pedal, change. Okay, don't be virtuoso by itself. Don't separate it. Always. Always with a lot of melancholic feeling. It's all chromatic, right? That's the idea. So try. Forgot the notes, but that's the try. Okay, try to count when you play. You need a. You have a da 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 da. You have 5 in the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So because I think you played maybe 4, yeah. This part, basically, the growth in terms of speed, if you wish, also needs to be organic. You don't want to be in the situation where we are at the Olympic and we hear the gun going, boom, and everybody starts running, right? Yeah, it's a little bit different. It shouldn't be a sudden, it should be organic growth. This was quite good. And the end can be more dramatic when you play. Sorry. And now. change of pedal. Don't lose the melody. Yeah. So do you have that? Yeah, D natural, right? Yeah, D natural becomes D flat. Yeah, you see, if you play in tempo, my ear doesn't get the difference. But if I do try. Slow the then go. No, no, no. Good. F the bell, death bell, you know this. We remained all snowed out. He likes the F so much that then he doesn't. And that's the last note you hear. The first note was that is, so it remains open. Okay, sorry, we need to stop here, but bravo, wow, it's quite something, isn't it? Yeah. So where would you like to start from? That's fine, if you prefer. Yeah. You stop when you decide, and yeah. Yeah, maybe I use your score. Okay. Did something happen with the pedal, or you were turning pages because?
No, we just got distracted. So got distracted, so.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was a pedal there. You were turning page. Now there is no pedal. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you know, there has been always this issue of Chopin being probably the composer who left most pedal markings in comparison to any other composer. Perhaps Liszt did a good job too, but Chopin was the one that left far, far more pedal markings. And it's indeed the composer that has been ignored. God forbid, if Beethoven writes only 3 or 4 pedal markings, everybody will will spend so much time to figure out how these pedal markings should go there. This sonata, for example, and so on. Everybody is religiously observing everything that Beethoven wrote. And with Chopin instead, so many people do not. And those who do, they will find that actually they will understand those who don't. Because some of these pedals end up being a little bit too long. And so it made me wonder what the reasons might have been. First of all, his favorite instrument being an upright instrument, Pleyel. I played once in New York, and I always felt that the maximum sound I could draw out of the instrument, which was smaller dimension, would be a mezzoforte, maybe, or barely a forte, and that was it. There was no other way to go. I don't know that we can say that all Pleyels were the same, and certainly that was not the Pleyel Chopin knew, but there is a different colorful range, and the color, of course, exists within a smaller range. Each instrument has a range. A piano technician will play the same note multiple times in crescendo to realize until, what is the point of non-return, the point when we step into the so-called banging on the piano, right? That sound is ugly and so on. And some instruments go a little bit more, than others. And so I thought maybe he was indicating, it would be presumptuous of me to think that because Chopin only played 12 or so concerts in his lifetime, a dozen concerts or something, right? That he had not an extensive knowledge of the sound in a concert hall. He certainly attended many concerts, and so I doubt that was the idea, that he was using pedal markings this long because of when he was teaching, in the conditions in which he was teaching. Maybe smaller rooms, maybe upright piano sometimes, or whatever, that needed that. It would be difficult to think of Chopin only writing things for pedagogical value and not really, for actual performance. He was a composer's composer, so it's hard to explain this, but I feel that sometimes if you have notes like this, all these parts are, he writes a long pedal. This works because the harmony is the same, and because the repetitions are, if one is smart, doesn't play too loud in the beginning, there is room to do the crescendo, and so it's not disturbing at all. And also, it doesn't write. If he had written it here, you see, in a different register, it would be very heavy. But if you hear Rubinstein in the Polonaise, and so on, you will see, and you check the pedals by Chopin, it doesn't do half of what's written there. But what he does is he creates the militaresque feeling, he creates the heroic feeling out of the Polonaise. So what's more important, are we faithful to a symbol, or are we, in other words, is this urtext or ur-spirit, as Lipatti used to say, Dino Lipatti used to say. We have to play not the score, but the spirit of the composition. The character of the composition will win even over small details of notation. It's a hard one. So if you do, and many people play, they shorten the pedal. Again, also we don't know the length of this. Here he writes. So he takes it after, in the middle, the pedal marking is off. And then he puts it back here. Does it mean we have to do, or does it mean that maybe the editor published a longer pedal marking? It's hard to say, but if we do, it takes away a little bit the heroic. Yes, the other thing is, if the trill is a little weak and the chord is a little loud, we get, I can't hear. Yes, so for that one, you either play a little softer with the pedal, or you might ignore the pedal in, to show, or put it only in the beginning, because you want to hear that. Good. Yes. And then many people, for example, in this Polonaise, they end so kind of like they take off the pedal to show the rest. But we do know, and that many times Chopin wrote pedals in places in which he wrote rests. And then he didn't write the pedal in places where somebody would normally use the pedal, almost as though to say, here I know that you might want to show the rest, but I don't want. When he writes, here there is a rest in the barcarolle. When you go, but he writes, see, so he actually puts the pedal exactly to cover that rest, because he doesn't want a separation. That's another thing to consider, which one is it? This one is very clear. He wants it. So probably he doesn't want a solitary, note, but he wants the harmony. So you hear and then resolution. And you have to be so careful to place it right, because you get. That's it. Good. Good. Play the opening one more time with the. So is it so the emphasis in the beginning, or but then why didn't he write the bar line after the first three notes? If he wanted the emphasis on the arrival note, he could have done 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Instead he writes 1, 1. So I feel the D is more important in some way. These are too long your pedals. And you play. See if you can use the fourth note without. Up. Much better, much better. It gives you much more clarity. I think you were extending the pedal to create more sound, but the harmony, there's too many chromatic aspects to this thematic material, yeah? So he basically, it's almost like starting an engine. First time you try, it doesn't work. It takes another time, then it goes a little longer. Ya-ta-ta-ta-ta. Oh, wow, it's starting. No, it's that again. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Now 5 notes. 3, 3, 4. No, 3, 3, 5, 6. And then we have this passage that never end, you know, it's quite incredible. And that should give us, you know, after this color, only forte. So if possible, although you have again one of those examples where the melody has single notes and the left has a big bass octaves and a bunch of 3-note chords, that is easy to play heavily because it's the writing. But if we do mostly voicing the, try one time to play this with 2 hands and you play, say, just those notes. No, the 2 lower voices. Yeah, just those notes, like a. Yeah, just I don't ask for much. I just ask for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 notes I want. Play it again. No, it's not 5, 5, 5. That's it. Yes. So when you have that color, now play. Not but with the other hand. So, yeah. There is no doubt that now the top is very clear, right? So once the ear realizes that it is possible. So I would go for that with the same hand now, kind of. If you're playing the right notes, are you playing 1, 2, 4? Yes. Why the hand so tense that your finger bends the opposite way? Can you try to arch the hand a little bit? And, yes. Okay, but maybe you might misreading. When you play this, 2 of them. The third has this. And there it is. There it is. Yeah. Yes. So if you go for this, you want to hear a so more tops. Then we can talk about the pedal. How much do we need? That takes. It's hard to make the rhythm, right? So we have to probably. There was no notation like in contemporary music. You could, with the notation, you could. Probably show that the pedal should be depressed all the way to the bottom, and then with the cymbal that, you know, goes either up or down, it tells us that the pedal needs to come up a little bit. This was left to the performers to decide. So if you put about half pedal in the middle of a pa-pa-pa, it should come up a little bit, so it lightens, you know. If I put all the way down, I can't hear the rhythm. I hear it again, you know. Mushy, mushy, mushy. I don't know what to hear, but now I can. So down and then up. Well, this he wants. He wants it, so it cannot be. Although some people did, but I would try. You should split and practice first this. And you stop there, right? You put it too quickly, I heard almost. That's it, exactly. Then I would practice this. Because if I do, that's a little too long, but if I only play D sharp and then I take it off after, then it gives me a better rhythm. when you get to here, if I do that, melody is already gone. I hear D, A, I forgot the D. So I need to play the A, softer, like so yes. So some of these can be done like this, like this is not it. This is more like with the wrist up, like a. This instead, because there is more power with the octave, you can afford to do. Or maybe one of the tricks, which is also useful when you play with a vocalist, you don't step on the voice or near the vocal line. So rather than hearing, we go for, and this accompanies it. Yeah, so this way it's in a different register. It won't contrast enough to cover the melody, no? So, and that. That was good. I missed the. I need to hear a. Yes. Give me a moment of pause and not. It makes a better rhythm if you are. Which was the most important thing, right? In the beginning is the theme. This is a counter theme. Not so pretty in comparison to. So that should be very clear. Again, go for. So don't go for. Go for this color with a shadow. The octave, the pinky, is the shadow of the thumb. It shouldn't be equal, otherwise it overbalances, overpowers. Good. Okay, so the trills are very important in military music because they are the drum. So we have to hear, and therefore there, maybe for the piano of Chopin the pedal works, but for the modern piano, that he never heard such an enormous amount of heaviness in the bass. So we need a. For that is fine. So I would start with the trill. I eliminate the pedal in the middle. Do you hear that sound? It's not pretty. Do you hear it? It really is not pretty because this piano somehow, when you go like this, it barks. It has strange vibration. It's a beautiful instrument, by the way. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But somehow there are some vibrations that I hear. Sometimes. Maybe there you don't hear it, but I actually could hear it from there. So try. So in other words, more of these. May I? And see that? This has limits. If you overdo, it does something funny in the vibrations. That's enough. This needs a little voicing maybe, but anyway, try. Bravo, yes. Beautiful. Sing better with this, so a little softer here, and then bell like. because he puts ton of notes, right? And so it's making the poor pinky suffer to try to. This I would actually almost be tempted to do. I would not hesitate for a moment. This, unless you have a gigantic hand, is very difficult to play. So I would take the. See that? Yes, but immediately prepare the. Well, I don't know if you can play the 10th. If you're not, you can. You can play. Play slow, play slow, play slow, play slow. This is a Zen time that we have here. Try that. Pom, 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 pom. Beautiful, yes. Only by playing very slowly can you monitor the sound quality. Bravo, yes. Now, this one, many people play, including Pollini, if you hear the recording, or hear the pedal comes off like in the Chopin etude on the second note. Or Chopin wrote there, I think, a pedal for 2 notes. And then immediately, you know. So many people don't do exactly what he writes, which is a. Because the reason is that you can do that at home. You know the story. Don't do that at home. In this case, you can do that at home in an acoustic that's very dry. That pedal works, but when you bring it here, it doesn't work. So that's why in many recordings you will hear. In other words, the change should occur sooner. And this could be notational issues of the way it was printed. I don't know, but it's like that. So it's basically this. But he wrote, takes all the military character away. Easier if you think instead of playing tempo, think ba. Take time between the right side of the key to go to the left. Ba. The staccatos, try one time to relax your arm like this, look. So long sound, yeah. Not so much spider web, not so much like spider looking fingers. Elongate them a little bit, which is how Chopin taught his students to walk, observe how your hand looks, and then you just pick it up. The way it looks is the way your hand was meant to be on the piano. It shouldn't be overly arched or, you know, just. And so he taught that the length of the finger, a little longer, will give you, you know, this approach, basically, as opposed to this. So when you put your hand in that position, try now one more time that spot. Yeah, yes, yes. And now suddenly, where are we? I lost track of the score. Here. So, with elongated fingers, first start with long notes like this. And I want you to feel that you pull the fingers towards you like this. And then now, you feel the activity in the fingers is very much there. Okay? So then the fingers are active, the arm releases and is passive. So you get that tone, which you learn without pedal, right? Because what you are doing is because you were creating a cast iron hand and you were going into the keys. Instead, I think you should edify the dome of the hand, which is here, by picking it up, like. Because it gives you a warmer sound. Yes. This, a little bit, you know, is this. It's the same attitude that sometimes when you go and you meet a pet and you are rigid because you're nervous, they sense right away that you're not, and they react, and they're not very friendly. But if you go like, oh, come here, you know, they totally let go of their inhibition. So it's the same for us when you do this, this versus, it starts from the keyboard up, like this, and then you learn to detach faster, like. So you take instead of putting into the piano. Yes, better. Then it's a little too long. Yes, so you will. But you draw the sound out of the piano. You don't inject it into the piano, right? That's what we do. Yeah, yes, very good. And then I never understood. Ram pa pa pam, tim tim pam pam pa, pa pa pam. I need the. That's better. And better. Then different tone now. Yes, I don't see the crescendo. I know it's possible, but try. I will wait for the last one and try to play it. But this is a. Bravo, that's it. Very good, the sound. So elongated finger. You did well here. And then you lock it from here. Try to keep it. So you're playing with this too. By the way, you play this much faster than. I will keep. Can you feel the tension? And then you let go. Let go. Pedal up. Yeah, pedal up. So it's the inner voice is a little too loud. to hear C and F. That's what gives me a dominant seventh. And again, same story here. If this is too loud, I cannot hear your little mini trill. How are you playing the trill? 2, 3, 1 on a black key. Why not 2, 1, 3? 2, 1, 3. With the high wrist at the end, like a. Yeah. Good. That's good. Now, this is the same. Let's try to return to. That's very hard. Sorry. This. The one with the scales. Again. Keep the time. You do fa ta ta ta. Then calm down a little after. More introverted, that part, yes. Careful with the pedal. At 68, make sure you play changing because you kept it. And that's too much, this one. You need another. So I would, after you play this chord, this I would do off a little bit and then yeah, but these should be lighter and not more like yeah, because you see what happens, you go down like this, you squeeze the metacarp and the thumb reaches with much more power. Instead, keep the metacarp more powerful as though you were holding an object. So you go, play only 5, high wrist, keep the finger elongated, and use the bones stacked up, one on top of the other, like a, then add, and finally, there it is. There it is, okay? Yeah, exactly. Very beautiful. So it's not like, because you were squeezing here, you see. Instead, now it's the bridge is there for you. Very good. Okay, so 2 words about this part which you didn't play. This. I think somehow it could become heavy because it's highly repetitive. So maybe we have an accent in the beginning, so kind of. Yeah, so it's this, that. Good. To hear these, don't go for, think of, practice only the second note. Try. Yeah, there was once a scherzo that was like, this is opposite. So we need not, but exactly. That's how you hear all the notes. If you play the first very soft, you will hear 2, 3, 4, 1. Otherwise, we hear 1, 2, 3, whatever. See, the original by Chopin is this. How did he play the pedal in this? Many people don't use the pedal. I tend to use maybe a little, maybe the first four, and then not the other. Can you try that? Bravo, yes. That's already too loud, though, because you have a long journey to go. So that's what I was going to say, that when you start, again, it's all about voicing. By the way, if I did, of course, the pedal would be too much, but that's why you voice the top more. And so when you play the first, you have piano here, mezzo forte here only, like a... What is it? Never too loud or too much left hand. There it is. So you can have different techniques. For example, you start from the key up. You don't go into the key, but you go. For this one, whereas this one you go. So one hand is attached to the key and maybe does this movement. The other hand gets in. And the second note, don't play them too late to the point that you don't hear, because you have to squeeze them in, you know, they become, exactly. Much better, yes? So this section will be quite easy in a sense if you start a little bit softer, if you voice these double octaves more towards the pinky, and if you you touch a little bit the pedal from and then you take the pedal off after the first four. But because you play so soft this note, you will be able to hear all four. Yeah? And then it gets just a little bit bigger. When it gets to that, I think. And then in that case, though, when it gets a bit bigger, it doesn't mean that this figuration will get louder, because it gets heavier otherwise. And then little by little it goes down until the pathos again, right? And the darkness re-emerges after this. So this is just a small episode that took us away from, you know, it feels as though some people are marching by from the distance initially, and then they come and pass you. It's often found in operas, this, you know, a chorus that walks by and you hear a little louder, and then when they go towards backstage, they start diminuendo, pianissimo. It's a very beautiful effect. And of course, he went to the opera and he knew those things, right? So there's a beautiful effect and an episode that takes us away, you know, from the tam, pi pa pam, pa pa pa, and from the other episode that we saw earlier, which is the, and instead of returning with tam, bi da dam, da da da, now that second episode we saw with the, yeah. If possible, yeah, I would change I would change twice, but remove it quickly, not exactly. So you have to practice a lot the tops, like yeah, so that the top has to be more physically legato if you can. Maybe with, I don't know, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. 4, 5, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, your edition has very good fingering. If you can, if 1 and 3 is not possible, then we have to talk about it. And, you know, each hand is different. That's what I would do. I'm so sorry that we didn't get to the mazurka today. That's what. So, thank you. Thank you.